Welcome to Pound the Numbers, the podcast to keep you up to date with football within the hobby. Tyson here, excited to go over week 3 with you. Just recording at the conclusion of the Dallas-Philly game. We're going to talk some injuries. There's quite a few stacking up on us, especially within the hobby. We're going to get through the weekly review. We're going to also talk a little bit about the rookie production, some hot and cold players, and there's kind of 5 things I'm looking towards next week that I'm keeping a close eye on. Again, I want to mention our sponsor, Queen City Breaks. Harris and Avery and the guys are there have a lot of Bowman Chrome going on right now. The new Bowman Chrome release. If you mention Behind the Numbers when you guys join one of their breaks, you get $10 off any break that they do. They have a lot of good 1-box, 2-box breaks as well that are affordable for football, baseball majority, but they do have some basketball here and there as well. So check out Queen City Breaks on the Facebook group. Now it's time for the show. Hey everyone, Tyson, Bench Clear Media. Happy to go over week 3 with you again. Keep bringing the football content to you guys. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the show. Leave a review, be great, and follow me at numbers_behind. Have little tidbits here and there I like to put on there for you. If you didn't see my tweet from before this week, I just put out today that we'll start the show off with this. The 4 first-round quarterbacks that started in week 3, these are their numbers combined. 77 for 140, so just barely over 50%. 717 yards passing, 9 total turnovers, 18 sacks taken, and 2 touchdowns total. It's been a rough start for the 2021 quarterback class, and we're going to go over those numbers in depth for each guy, but I think some people are starting to realize how special Burrow and Herbert were last year in terms of how they came into the league and what they did right out the gate. They had a little bit better supporting cast, but those numbers from last week are scaring people a bit because a lot of people were just kind of all in this 2021 class, a lot of depth, a lot of quarterbacks. A lot of people are getting a little worried, and rightfully so. It's been tough. Lawrence had a lot of turnovers. Wilson really can't complete a touchdown to his guys. And, Mac Jones took some lumps, but he still, put up decent numbers. And Fields, he got ran through this week, to put it simply. But yeah, so 2020 class is scaring us. But let's go ahead and start the show off with just a little bit of an injury update. This is more just kind of just like an update. I'll bring my wife Chris back on next week. We'll get a little more in depth. Obviously, Carson Wentz's high ankle sprain was a little bit blown out of proportions as he still tried to play through it. He wasn't very effective, though, so he clearly was hindered trying to do so. So maybe he should have been out 4 to 6 weeks in reality because he didn't do much with the Colts last week against a fairly weak defense with the Titans. Tua is actually on IR, so they're just going to go the rest in his ribs. I think the IR is a 3-week IR, so we'll see how long they let him rest. But Brissett did not look great, and we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. Andy Dalton's now kind of questionable, and Fields got dinged up a little bit, so the Bears kind of have 3 possible starting quarterbacks next week. It's not looking good in Chicago right now. Tyrod Taylor, we know he's on IR, so Mills will be starting for a couple more weeks. A.J. Brown had a hamstring strain, still not he was ruled out immediately, similar to McCaffrey, so we don't have a lot of info yet in terms of how long, but hamstrings are scary for receivers and running backs. McCaffrey's been kind of right. Coach speak has been he's going to be probably a few weeks. So, you're looking probably 4 to 6 weeks with him. His was pretty bad in the sense that you could see the hamstring pop in his pants when he was running. So that's never good. Then we have Dalvin Cook with a sprained ankle. He missed last week, and he's kind of week to week, it looks like, with a sprained ankle. So all in all, the injuries are kind of stacking up a bit. I think A.J. Brown is probably him and McCaffrey are the new ones this week, and the rest is just a matter of kind of how they heal and in terms of their time and recovery, and we'll keep you up to date and more information we get on that. Just go through the week in review. Again, I try to give this a little bit of a hobby spin. Just kind of talk about the guys that are hobby relevant to us. Darnold's 3-0. He was a heavy buy for me in the preseason. I just think that he was just too cheap. I don't think his ceiling's high. But 3-0 is a great start. He does lose CMC, so we're going to see what Darnold can do because he's not going to have the safety blanket of CMC next week. They go through the Eagles and the Cowboys the next 2 weeks, Cowboys next week, and the Eagles the week after. So I think we're really going to get a real good picture how good the Panthers are the next 2 weeks, how they can do it without CMC. They're going to have to see how long they can weather the storm without him, which it didn't go well last year. When CMC got hurt last year, they kind of treaded water for a bit, and then their offense got too limited, and they struggled. So hopefully Darnold open up a little bit, be able to throw some more deep passes, stretch the field a bit to keep that offense somewhat unpredictable. Josh Allen answered my question I put on Twitter on Sunday morning. I'm looking at Josh Allen, can he get going? Can he get back to his MVP form from last year? Or is he going to continue to struggle a little bit? He had kind of rough first 2 weeks. And then I also said I want to see how Justin Fields is going to do. And Josh Allen answered the bell. He had 5 total touchdowns. He's going to be in our hot and cold players, but he completely dominated. So it's great to see Josh Allen back. That's great for him and his hobby value to kind of get back on track. And the Bills are just – it's going to be really hard for them not to win their division at this point. So he's in a great place just to kind of for sure be in the playoffs, a guy that that, in terms of your cards, you're going to be fairly safe for the season, barring injury. Fields roughed up, as I mentioned. He probably one of the worst games he probably could have had, 6 for 20. Not passing well at all. Every time he stepped back, there's 2 guys on him. Myles Garrett had 4 sacks himself at the 9. Fields had probably one of the worst rookie starts that we've seen in a long time. Some of it's O-line play, some of it's play calling, some of it was Fields just not comfortable. I mean, they had some play action rollouts into sacks. Like, it just didn't look good. I watched a lot of the sacks, and I would say that a majority of the sacks were not in Fields. I think anybody would have been sacked in those situations, but he definitely just was uncomfortable and never really got going at all. And they got throttled by the Browns. So not a good start for Fields, unfortunately. I'm still hoping for him. I like him, but we might have to see like a coaching change, a whole regime change for the Bears there to get him the cast he needs around, because that did not look good. Baltimore survives a letdown. They had a 66-yard field goal from Justin Tucker, an NFL record, to win the game over the Lions, which is very surprising. The Lions had them. But Baltimore escapes that win. You're just going to see the win in the column. That's all that matters. But they almost lost the Lions. That's a little concerning coming off their Kansas City win, kind of that letdown game. But Baltimore barely survives. Titans sends the Colts to 0-3. Like I said, Wentz plays but not efficient. Still, Taylor's not getting going, which I'm kind of disappointed. I really thought he would start relying on him more, but he just hasn't been very efficient at all. Really struggling. I think a lot of fantasy owners are getting concerned. The consensus is give him more time. I still think give him more time, but that whole my hope that he would have like a huge possible 2,000-yard season keeps dwindling with every week that he can't get over that 100-yard mark even. So Taylor's struggling a bit. AJ Brown hurt in that game, so we'll see how the Titans offense changes a little bit, but they've kind of in that game already. Tannehill pretty much had 9 different receivers, I believe, and Derrick Henry is normal Derrick Henry. And the interesting thing about Derrick Henry right now, he had 100 yards rushing, and he's also, like last year, he had 19 receptions, and he's already at like 14 this year. So he's on a crazy pace for receptions this year, which is really big for his hobby and fantasy value, that he's being more involved in all aspects of the offense instead of just running. So I mean, that's great to see. He can be on pace for around 60 receptions, I think they said. Herbert beats Mahomes. Huge game for Herbert and his legacy. I think I don't think it defines his legacy, but it's definitely a big step. I'll give a shout out to a friend of mine in a Facebook group, Mike Watson. He just said, "Does this make Herbert into stardom?" And I kind of immediately just kind of scoffed at it, like, no, but I won't disregard the win. The win's a huge win. But the Chiefs, just like it's the Ravens, shot themselves in the foot, a lot of turnovers. So I don't know. Like, Herbert played well. We're going to talk about him, the hot and cold players. But my thing is, I think he was already at stardom. I think he's already been up there. His cards are hot. They continue to climb. He's definitely a different type of quarterback. If you've ever seen the piece on ESPN about how quiet he is and just like his demeanor, things that turned off teams that drafting him. I think it's really interesting. So check it out if you haven't. But in general, I just think that Herbert already was in stardom. And I just think that the Chiefs also are shooting themselves in the foot the last 2 weeks. So we'll really see what they can do to dig out the hole that they've created. But great week for Herbert. Great win for the Chargers, moving up into 2-1 in that division, which they're still not in first, because the Raiders and Broncos of all people are 3-0, which is crazy. Saints rough up Mac Jones to get back on track with a win in New England. They were underdog in that game. So Winston, he looked okay, not great, nothing. It was mostly the defense that kind of came through for the Saints in this game again, like they did against the Packers, which gave Winston good opportunities for possessions to score, and he took advantage this time. But his numbers still aren't high. He's not throwing for a lot of yards. He's not making big completions. So Winston's still kind of meh right now, not seeing what we need to see to be excited about his cards. Giants fall to 0-3. So again, that Daniel Jones kind of continues to fall. I know Mike in the last show said he kind of liked what Daniel Jones can do. Couldn't even really do it great against the Falcons. I mean, he had decent numbers, but no touchdowns. Barkley looked explosive, almost 100 yards total offense, but not much hobby value in that game right now, to be honest, besides Barkley at this point. Burrow, big win at Pittsburgh, 24-10, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which to Chase. Najee had a big game, which we'll go over in the rookie rundown. But all in all, Bengals winning at Pittsburgh. That's a big deal, because Pittsburgh's kind of unraveling a bit. I really think Big Ben is maybe 2 years too many now, but definitely 1 year too many. He might be stretching out his career a little bit too far. Rams, they take care of Tampa Bay, giving Stafford another big step, and 3-0 win against Tampa Bay. I mean, Stafford is kind of getting momentum for a potential MVP run. I think that's where the question was about his cards when I was saying selling. What's his ceiling as an MVP in Super Bowl? And so he's on a track for MVP. So I might be eating my words in terms of buy selling Stafford. And with him, it's always been injury for me. But it's kind of, they're having to throw as well, probably more than they wanted to. Once Akers went down and then Henderson was hurt, I mean, he's just pretty much, they have putting it on his shoulders, and he's coming through. And I think the Rams are a great offense for him. Him and Kupp have some great chemistry, which was my buy last week, and Kupp another big game. So, Stafford has an MVP chance. So I still think, even if he gets MVP and makes a Super Bowl or gets, a really good playoff run, I still think Rodgers is a card I want over his. So I didn't like how close they were, so I'll stand by that. But I do think that Stafford is starting to impress me. And I think that MVP, that climb in his cards, he could have a little bit more climb, especially the rare cards and more the cards that aren't just his base. If you have anything out like that, you'll probably see a big gain in those. Miami takes Vegas to OT. So Raiders are 3-0, but they barely got by Miami with Brissett. Brissett did not look good. Miami's kind of in control that whole game. Raiders definitely had a slow start for sure. Came back, got the win. Again, it's a win in the win column, just like the Ravens. So I think that was still really important for Carr. And, if you give Carr a little bit of looks, Carr's numbers have been great right now. They're 3-0. We'll see how long this lasts. But I just, even that game there is kind of one they typically lose. So do they avoid one of those here or not? The Raiders are so inconsistent. I just can't get behind Carr or really any of the guys in the Raiders cards besides Waller, just for fun because he's one of the top tight ends in the league. But right now the Raiders, I'm not believing the Raiders and Broncos yet. So I'm going to just hold off on that. Minnesota beats Seattle without Cook. Kind of concerning for Seattle, concerning for Wilson. Those guys, they get too far down that division, it's going to be hard to climb up. And if Seattle doesn't make the playoffs, you could see some big change in Seattle. I think that they've been kind of mulling it a bit, and I think Wilson's kind of asked to get out, but didn't ask to get out. And I don't know. We'll see what happens in Seattle, but definitely keep an eye on that because obviously Wilson's cards are important to us. Minnesota, Jefferson looked great. Cousins got a lot of offense. He had a lot of weapons with his receivers. So, all in all, Minnesota kind of diced them up. They got a lot of pressure on Wilson. O-line's concerned me a bit for Seattle. Green Bay dominated most of the first half against San Fran. San Fran took it over in the second half and took a last-second field goal from Crosby to win. Rodgers looked good. Adams looked good. I thought Garoppolo just made enough mistakes to make you question if he should, if he's going to keep that job long-term. He just has some errant throws, had just missed some spots that I'm just not sure how much of a leash they'll give him on that. Lance had a 1-yard touchdown run on a goal line carry, but I think that a lot of Niners fans want Lance to sit the year, and I'm just starting to question if they're going to be that patient with it. If Garoppolo is going to make those type of mistakes or feel limited with him, they might have to open up the playbook and get Lance in there and take the mistakes as they come with him. But we'll see on that. And then last one in tonight's game, Cowboys routed the Eagles 41-21. Hurts struggled. You look at his box score, didn't look too bad. He had some yardage at the end, but he was roughed up pretty good there. Was pulling the ball down pretty early. A lot of times when he's dropping back, and I'm not sure. Again, I'm just worried about his passing ability. Have been the whole time. He's still a sell for me, not a guy I'm trying to invest in. I just don't see. He does a lot of just lob balls. He had a pick six tonight, but a couple of just lob balls that just weren't. They didn't make sense. There's receiver with two defenders and just throwing it up for grabs. I don't know. Hurts, I'm just still off. Let's keep it simple. But Cowboys look good. Their defense is getting after the quarterback quite a bit. Zeke had a good game as well, and Dak, all in all, pretty good game for the Cowboys on their half. Just kind of going to the rookie production here. So again, this is gonna be pretty bad for the quarterback. So Trevor Lawrence was 22 for 34 for 219, 1 TD, 2 picks, 2 fumble loss on 3 sacks. So again, Lawrence 4 turnovers. You're not seeing the progression. You're not seeing him get better each week. It's been kind of the same story the last 3 weeks. So you're just hoping that he'll start to get some momentum and we'll start to see some gains from the number 1 overall pick. But just a reminder that Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions his rookie year. There should be no super concern. And I think we all knew the Jags weren't going anywhere this year. So kind of take your lumps, see if they get some momentum down the stretch and see what this team can become. But right now, definitely a little bit of concern of how much he's turned the ball over. You have to be concerned, especially for what the rookies showed last year. But again, I will make the point that, Herbert and Burrow both had probably better weapons coming right in and better team around them coming right in. I think Burrow's was rougher, obviously, his O-line, which cost him his knee. But Herbert's team, I'd say with the receivers and the running backs, he had a lot more to work with. So always keep that in mind. Mac Jones, 30 for 51, 270, 1 touchdown, 3 picks. 28 yards rushing pitched in by him, which is kind of surprising. Zach Wilson, 19 of 35 for 160 and 2 INTs. So I think Zach Wilson's at under 300 yards and 6 picks in his last 2 games. So that's quite concerning. Jets aren't getting any momentum either. They got shut out by the Broncos 27-0, basically kind of cementing themselves as probably the worst team in the league right now. Fields, again, 6 of 20 for 68 yards on 9 sacks. So he had 9 sacks for a loss of 67 yards. So if you think about his passing contribution, 67 yards lost in sacks with 68 yards passed. That's a 1-yard passing day. Rough day for Fields. Again, not all on him, but still a rough day. First day, either way you look at it. He does take some of the blame as well. Again, Lance only had 1 rush for 1 touchdown. That was it. Jamar Chase, 4 receptions, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns, up to 4 touchdowns in 3 games. That's an awesome start for rookie receiver. I'm going to have for the next show, I want to see about what Jefferson's total was last year. I just can't remember off the top of my head, but he might be coming up to that kind of Jefferson-type rookie year, which was better than Moss. So I'm excited to see what Chase can keep doing. Waddle, very inefficient game. 12 receptions for 58 yards on 13 targets. So he caught all the targets, but didn't go anywhere. 12 catches, 58 yards. He kept getting stuff behind the line, trying to pretty much just extend the running game with Brissett. They couldn't do much down the field. So he was trying to give me quick hits they could to see if they could pop. Devonta Smith was a little bit slow tonight. I didn't update his numbers, but he probably had 4 or 5 catches. He's getting some deep looks. They do have him involved. I think he's still kind of their go-to guy, which is impressive for a rookie. So I like what I've seen from Devonta. Najee, 14 for 40, but more importantly, he had 14 catches for 102 yards. So once Juju Smith was out, they turned Najee Harris as their main receiving weapon. He cashed in. I mean, 14 catches for him is huge. Javonte Williams, 12 for 29, 1 touchdown, and Davis Mills on his opening night on Thursday, which 19 for 28 for 168 and a touchdown. So not terrible for him for his first game. So show a little bit of something, which is good for the Texans taking a shot. But all in all, the rookies, like I said, those top first-round running backs are really concerning us in terms of their turnovers. So we'll see if they live to see another better day next week. But right now, we're all kind of looking back to 2020. I think Ty and Breaker Culture put out a tweet that said, hope you're holding 2020 wax and not saving for 2021. So I think right now he's right on. I would argue that 2020 is just 2 guys right now. I don't think anybody's looking forward for Tua or Hurts right now. But 2021, we still got a few guys that are still alive in terms of when you think they could be good. But 100% Herbert and Burrow are the guys right now, that's for sure. Hot and cold players. So, cold players, I just went to the injury guys for the most part. I mean, McCaffrey, a bad hamstring strain. So the thing with McCaffrey is he does something that most running backs can't do, which is be a 100-yard receiver, 100-yard rusher. And he hasn't been able to do that consistently for 2.5 years now. So injuries keep hurting him, so that's going to hurt his hobby value. I know running backs, it's always difficult with injuries. You were just hoping he could stay healthy, and that last year was just kind of a fluke, but now we're starting to kind of have continued issues with him, so you just hope that's going to stop, because if he doesn't stop, then his hobby value is obviously going to decline, because his career will never be what we thought it could be in terms of his numbers. I really wish he would just stay healthy, because I think he's a great player to watch. Dalvin Cook, who was one of my sells in week 1, he's out with sprained ankle. I don't think it's major. I think he still have some big games in him this year, but again, he just kind of always is dinged up. I just think his longevity of his career especially is going to be low. So if you're not a Dalvin Cook PC person, I would definitely look at moving those once he has a couple good games still. Julio Jones, 3 for 47. Again, he's just not – with A.J. Brown, it just didn't seem like they went to him much. Maybe the game plan will change a little bit next week if A.J. Brown's out, so it gives Julio a shot to reassert himself as a guy on that team that can contribute. But right now hasn't worked out. He's not cashing in. I mean, there's a big, campaign to get him to go there from A.J. Brown and whatnot, but it's been disappointing to say the least in terms of what he's contributed. The hot players, I have mentioned Josh Allen. His actual numbers were 32 of 43 for 358, 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 9 catches for 118 and a touchdown. I think he's just been fairly consistent all year so far, and just kind of continue off his season from last year. And Justin Herbert, 26 of 38, 281, 4 touchdown. Did say he nicked up his hand, so it's pay attention to that, see if it's serious or see what the deal is that. But all in all, he was a super efficient with 26, 38, 4 TDs, no turnovers, which is big. So really like what I saw from him. I'll just kind of closing it out, guys. 5 takeaways from week 3. I just said Josh Allen back on track. That's great for our cards. That's great for those of you guys invested in him. I think that the Bills are in a great position. Their defense has been really impressive. So the Bills have a team to make a run. And I think that next week they have the Texans. It's only going to be easier from them. And their division is kind of dwindling around them with Miami with the injuries. Jets are probably the worst team in the division. or league. And then New England, they're just not there yet. I think New England's defense is solid. Might give the Bills a little bit of trouble in the cold weather. I know they both like cold weather, but slow the game down. But all in all, I think that the Bills are just head and shoulders above everybody in that division right now. We're in Seattle. I just said, Seattle's 1-2. The Rams and the Cardinals are 3-0, and the 49ers 2-1. And Seattle's 1-2. They've lost 2 games that they probably should have won. They should have beat the Titans at home. That was a tough one to drop, and then to come back and lose to Minnesota the next week. Just really difficult for them to keep losing those games out of the division because their division's only going to be tougher. So really, their O-line's concerning me. I'm not sure. Their defense wasn't very effective against Minnesota. So just really worried to see what happens to Seattle. I'm watching them pretty closely because obviously Wilson's cards are important to us. DK Metcalf had actually a good week last week, but still – if Wilson's gone, that hurts DK's value as well if they decide to move on or change that team up. So, like we talked about earlier in the show, Stafford is a legitimate MVP. So that's my takeaway for that one. AFC North getting turned upside down. I said Bengals and Browns now. Like Bengals and Browns are kind of up there. I know the Ravens won, so the Ravens are still top of the division as well. But Bengals and Browns just seem like they're going to be not an easy out. Like there used to be kind of automatic wins for the Steelers and Ravens. I don't think that's the case anymore. And I do think that the Bengals have the Jags on Thursday. So another pretty easy matchup for the Bengals to get 3-1, which would be really big for that franchise to be 3-1. So really interesting to see what happens to the AFC North. Steelers are aging. Ravens are beat up. Browns are pretty beat up too. They lost Landry, which actually kind of hurts them quite a bit. And then the Bengals are, really young. So all in all, a very interesting division. And the last thing we have to end with is Kansas City is last in the AFC West. So for how long? I think that they won't be last for – they have to be last for at least 3 or 4 weeks, but it just seems that them being 1-2, I never could have predicted it. It was crazy to me that they're 1-2. They really could have been 0-3. The Browns had them as well. So they had a tough start to their schedule. Going Browns, Ravens, and Chargers, that's a tough start. But dropping at home to the Chargers is very surprising to put them in this kind of hole. So it's really interesting to see how much fire they come out with next week. And if Mahomes gets them back on track and, takes the league by storm, or if they're going to be kind of mediocre this year. We have to ask that question. So very interesting to see how that is because obviously Mahomes' cards are big ones for us to follow. But I'll be back with you guys on Thursday with some more hobby chat, give you guys an update on Donruss values. And also just a couple, we'll kind of see if Mosaic's got any dates yet in terms of the release. Because I'm really looking forward to Mosaic this year. I hope you are as well. Lastly, a shout out to my sponsor again, Queen City Breaks. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Again, mention behind the numbers when you get into a break for them. Receive $10 off. A lot of Bowman Chrome. Avery Harris, the guys doing a great job over there. You should jump in. Guys, have a great day. I will see you on Thursday.